Hello again, welcome back. So we ended up creating the smoke sim and the velocity, and I lowered the samples, the division, so it's faster to work with. And remember I showed the pyro solver with this shape section where we have disturbance, shredding, sharpening, turbulence. And these are actually solver, sorry, these are actually micro solvers. And uh, all this smoke solver here is made of micro solvers. And if I hit tab here and we go under micro solvers, we have all these micro solvers that Houdini has by default, and it's what's used underneath the smoke solver and pyro solver. And we want to use some of those. We want to use some of them instead of using the pyro solver just to get the extra turbulence or shredding or anything like that. We want to create everything from scratch. And I'm going to put down a merge node because I know I'm going to be creating few, and we want to connect this to the velocity. And the first one we're going to create is called gas turbulence. Okay, and now if I let me increase the scale so we can see the effect. Let's set it to 2. And if I hit play, you can see it's much more turbulent. And this is great because we can use this to do a lot of breakups. And I'm going to set this to 0.5, and as usual layer them up. So let's see how this works. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna make the swirl size bigger and lower the scale, and I'm gonna make another one that is 0.5, maybe 0.3, and set the swirl scale to 1. So we have three levels of noises. It's pretty low res, that's why we don't see the effect that much, but I think it's overall it's pretty strong. So I'm gonna go back and reduce these guys, or actually just that one, and probably this one too. Okay, so we have these gas turbulence, and the second section here is this is the main one, and the second section is the field that we can use to drive when this this force gets applied. And currently it's getting applied uniformly, and that's fine because we want that. But we can also use a field from the sim that we to define how much it affects the sim. But for now we're gonna just leave that to off, and let's hit play. Cool, so we have extra turbulence added. You can see it's a lot more visible at the ground here. And I'm going to create something that will cause the smoke to dissipate. And currently it's not dissipating at all. It's just, hitting the boundaries and disappearing. But we're not losing anything. Everything is getting added. So what we need to use for that is we need to use a gas dissipate. And for this guy, we say we can use the evaporation rate, and we're going to say evaporate, 12.5% of this every frame. It's a pretty high number, so that will cause the smoke to disappear every frame. 12.5% of the smoke will disappear, and so we're not going to be feeling this as much. Okay, and then the last thing I want to change is the let's see, let me verify something. I'm not sure if this is going to help in this case. I think it is. Cool, so I think it's doing. Yep. So the what buoyancy does is it decides how much, where the smoke is going to go, if it's going to rise or go down. And the negative buoyancy, the default value is 5, and that will cause it to go up when we have temperature, positive temperature. And in this case, we do have we do have a temperature field that is created by default. Okay, if I look at this guy, we have a temperature field and a density field, and it is currently equal to the same density, same value as the density. And if I increase this up, it will start to shoot up because the buoyancy is super high and the smoke will rise up right away. And if we use a negative value, we can make it go down even further. So I'm going to use a value of -15 just to enforce everything to go down and make it look more like a dry ice. Cool. So the last thing I want to change is this domain here, and currently it is getting clipped with the smoke is getting clipped with the domain. And what I want to do is I want to make this guy, I want to tell it to resize every frame or shrink down to the how much it needs to be to represent that data, and this will make the sim much more efficient because we'll only store the domain needed to represent that density value or the density data or velocity data. So I'm going to create a gas resize field, and I'm going to not this one, gas dynamic resize fluid dynamic, and I'm going to connect this in the pre-solve section. And I'm going to leave everything as default. I'm going to delay it by 1 frame to tell it to start, basically check 1 frame later after the sim is run. And if I hit play now, you can see at this frame it's this size, and then it snapped after 1 frame, it snapped to represent this guy. And this delay helps for this guy not to clip any data, because if we set it to exact same to 0, it may clip some information from the sim. So delaying it by 1 frame always helps. And now it's gonna keep expanding as needed for the sim until it reaches the max, which is described by this guy. And we can remove that if we go under this max bound here and check clamp to maximum. It's gonna shrink and then keep expanding to an infinite amount. It's up to you guys if you want to do this or not. Sometimes it works, sometimes the sim may go up to somewhere you're not expecting it to go, and then end up getting super slow, like in this case, for example. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to have a bigger domain and tell it to not go beyond that, because that may be what you're looking for. That may be the max of your what you will be covering through this camera. And I'm going to also lower all the scale. I think it's pretty strong, the turbulence, so I'm going to reduce everything. And this guy currently, I'm going to reduce it down to 0.5. Yeah, and I'm going to decrease the division to get more details, and let's hit play. Sorry, one last thing. I'm gonna go back to the gas resize and check on clamp to maximum, so it clamps to that maximum. And I think that's pretty much it. We have created the source, we have the geometry, we have added forces and everything. I think the rest for now is to continue tweaking the sim, and I think I have done a sim using this setup or something very close, and I'm going to show you the result in a second. But let's first take a look at this, or let's first look at how we can import this data back into DOPS. Cool. So that's our sim. And the way we import data is using this DOP import fields, and I'm going to drag this guy here to point to the DOP network, and then I'm going to dive inside and copy the name of the smoke object, and I'm going to paste that here. And here we're going to specify what we want to import, and we want to import the smoke. We want to import smoke from DOPS, and I don't need these fields. I don't need the val, the rest, and temperature. I just need density in this case. And if I hit play now, we have our density field, and if I middle click you can see we have a density field, and you can use this in conjunction with the volume visualization now and make it denser and make it, display it using high-res volume. And I'm going to create a light, and let's move this up and set it to point and point it downward. Is it pointing downward? Hopefully. So we have that, and then I'm going to create a grid, increase the size, and we have that as well. And for the color, I think it's too dark, it's too bright right now, so I'm gonna remove this guy, and I'm going to increase the density of the volume a lot more. Maybe that, something like this. And let's hit play, see what we have. So this is our sim, and it's currently low res, but I will sim few frames at a higher resolution while we look at the high res sim that I've already done. Cool. So this is the previous sim that I did. It's very similar. It's I think 95% there. It's just different values, and it's a lot more high res. I think I simmed it at 0.05, and that's how it looks like. And this is an OpenGL playblast from the viewport. I didn't do a render of this. And what I really like about this effect is these guys, this intersection with the geometry and the following the surface, the flow of the surface, and then everything gets distorted by the turbulence and everything. And so basically we now have a setup that we can tweak to make this even a better effect. Let me go back, see how this looks like. Yeah, it's very similar. And this is now, let's see the resolution. Yeah, it's 130. It's decent. It's not high res yet, but we can go higher, obviously, and we can play with the settings a little bit more. And so now I can simply put down a ROP and connect this guy and write it to disk like we always do, and then read it back in. sim.v1 $f4.gu.sc, and make sure to uncheck cache simulation. That's it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.